Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith Achibi. Here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent. And we'll begin in North America, where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been confirmed by the Senate as the new U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services under President Donald Trump. Kennedy, who is well known for his support on health issues, including vaccine safety. His appointment has sparked significant attention. Meanwhile, supporters applaud his commitment to public health, while critics raise concerns about his controversial stance on vaccines. His confirmation marks a key moment in Trump's administration as it signals a focus on health policy reform during a time of heightened public health challenges. And in Europe, where U.S. President Donald Trump has promised to end the Ukraine war swiftly, but his approach is raising concerns about America's long-term strategy. After speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, Trump directed U.S. officials to initiate peace talks. However, comments from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have triggered alarm as he suggested Ukraine's pre-2014 borders and NATO membership are not part of the deal. Now, critics, including former Ambassador Michael McPhail, question why the U.S. is making concessions to Russia before talks even began. As Europe leaders respond with unease, fears grow that Ukraine is being sidelined in the face of Moscow's demands.
Well, we had a great call, and it lasted for a long time, over an hour this morning. I also had with President Zelensky a very good call after that. And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed. He wants, if it ends, he wants it to end. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. We talked about the possibility, I mentioned it, of a ceasefire so we can stop the killing, and I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not-too-distant future. Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot of land, and they fought for that land, and they lost a lot of soldiers, but it would just seem to me, and I'm not making an opinion on it, but I've read a lot on it, and a lot of people think that that's unlikely. Some of it will come back. I think some of it will come back. Yeah, some of that land will come back. And I may do it later on, or I may do it tomorrow morning, but we'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them.
Joining us on the news to discuss this is foreign analyst expert Bolu Michael B, who joins us live from Kigali, Rwanda. Michael, many thanks for doing this with us. I mean, let's just get started, shall we? How do you think the U.S. giving up on NATO membership and territory for Ukraine might affect its relationship with European countries and even the larger extent of Ukraine's safety?
All right, thank you for having me. I think if the U.S. pulls through with that, with such plan, it's going to might damage the relationship with their allies, especially within the European Union, because most of the countries that are close to Russia. They rely on NATO for their security, and the USA, kind of can be viewed as weak. Being that negotiation has not even started, and they are already making concessions. It might be seen as unreliable, and not strong enough to actually stand up to Russian aggression. And for Ukraine, not being part of NATO and also considering some of their land, it might put them in a vulnerable position against Russia attack in the future. So it's such a, I don't expect such from Trump, being that he's a businessman and he has negotiated a lot of deals throughout his life. But making such a concession too early, I think it might put him in a very weak position when it comes to the negotiation table. And this kind of action can actually embolden aggressive regimes, to kind of pursue aggression, because as it stands right now, it seems that there's a reward for aggression.
And do you think that the U.S. is weakening its position by offering to give Russia some things before official talks even start, like Crimea and Ukraine's NATO membership?
Yeah, I think they're kind of weakening their position because in diplomacy, you see, giving up leverage too early, takes away their ability to negotiate better terms, and this will keep Russia, asking for more, being that U.S. is considering rather early before negotiation and talks, So Russia might consider U.S. to be quite weak, and they might want to take advantage of that weak position, and like I said earlier, it seems like there's a reward for aggression if this pulls through, because the world will begin to wonder this country has been aggressive, and at the end of the day, they are going back home with more land, and also their desire, which is for Ukraine not to be part of NATO.
And how likely is it that Russia will agree to end the war if Ukraine refuses to give up land and remain as independent as possible, considering Putin's demands?
It's unlikely that Russia would concede, in any way if Ukraine does not do what they want. And President Putin has made it clear time and time again that they will accept nothing short of the demilitarization and neutrality of Ukraine. What they want is to reduce the military capacity of Ukraine, and also for them to remain neutral, that is not be part of NATO. So anything short of these two, I don't think there's any incentive whatsoever for on the part of the Russians to want to end the war in any way. So it's quite a very tight situation, and I hope that we find a compromise one way or the other. Let's see what happens the coming weeks and months.
And I have to ask at this point the risk and rewards of trying to end the Ukraine war quickly, especially if it means that Ukraine won't get the security it wants or will have to give up land to Russia.
Okay, well, let me start with the risk. I think the most obvious one is that it rewards aggression, in that aggressive regime will now want to take the toll of Russia, in that they're going back, they might end up going back with more land, and then their wish, So that's can embolden, aggressive regimes to pursue aggression, which is not good. And for Ukraine, they remain very vulnerable, if not more vulnerable than before. Because they're losing their land and they're not under a strong security body, and also the U.S. risk damaging their relationship with their allies, and that's going to affect them economically and in every other way. So when it comes to the reward aspect, I think the most obvious one would be peace. Some have argued that the peace is the absence of war, but the first thing is the first reward is peace. People will be able to go about their day-to-day activities. I think the second thing is that they might achieve economic stability, because this war has affected the world in a very negative way, because the shipping routes have been blocked in some parts, which has made price of goods and services to increase. So if there's peace, we can see a level of economic stability. And lastly, because a lot of money has been spent on this war, that will no longer happen if they are able to reach, a consensus. So the US, especially Europe, will now be able to channel this money that are spent on the war into more productive things like healthcare, education, and the likes.
Well, only time will tell. Bolu Michael B. there. He's a foreign analyst, and he joins us just to give us a bit of insight on the possible agreement or an end to a possible end to the Russia-Ukraine war. Many thanks again, Bolu, for joining us. I appreciate you for doing this with us. We'll switch gears now as we continue with more headlines from beyond the continent, as U.S. President Donald Trump says granting Ukraine NATO membership would not be practical, highlighting a key obstacle in the ongoing conflict with Russia. Trump made the remarks after speaking with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin, announcing an immediate start to peace negotiations. The issue of NATO membership has been a major point of contention in the war, with Ukraine seeking security guarantees, while Russia demands that Ukraine remain neutral. Trump's comments come as efforts intensify to end the nearly 3-year-long conflict.
I don't think it's practical to have it, personally. I know that our new Secretary of Defense, who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear that Ukraine will not accept any peace deal between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin that excludes Ukraine. Zelensky emphasized that any agreement regarding Ukraine's future must involve the country's participation, as it directly impacts Ukraine's sovereignty and security. He also expressed his displeasure on Thursday over U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to call Russian President Vladimir Putin before reaching out to him. His remarks come amid growing tensions surrounding ongoing peace talks, with Ukraine determined to ensure its voices is heard in any negotiations that affect its territorial integrity and independence. Zelensky's statement underscores Ukraine's firm stance in the conflict with Russia.
Вже було 3 розмови, так, з президентом Трампом, і тому я не сприймаю цей дзвінок, що це був пріоритет, що він спочатку говорив з Росією. Хоча, дійсно, це не дуже приємно у будь-якому випадку, тому що ви знаєте, як українське суспільство, як всі ми, і європейці так реагують, що передусім Україна, і нічого не може бути про Україну без України.
Let's also tell you that at least 20 people have been injured after a car plowed into a crowd in Munich, Germany. On Thursday, a day before the city's high-profile security conference, now Germany authorities have identified the driver involved in a suspected car ramming attack in Munich as an Afghan asylum seeker. Meanwhile, emergency services confirmed that a Mini Cooper struck a group of striking workers from the Verdi Union. Now, several victims are reported to be in critical condition. Authorities have detained the driver, who is not considered a threat. And eyewitnesses say a person was trapped under the vehicle while police reportedly fired at the car's window. Investigations into the circumstances of the incident are ongoing.
Lkw-Fahrer in eine Menschenmenge fährt, eine Situation ist, die im Prinzip millionenfach jeden Tag, zu jeder Stunde, an jedem Ort unseres Landes im Prinzip stattfinden kann. Insofern kann ich eine solche Situation nicht von vornherein verhindern. Wir müssen sehen, wo sind Personen, die gefährlich sind. Aber auch hier gilt, soweit wir im Moment wissen, ist der Täter bislang durch Ladendiebstähle aufgefallen, aber nicht durch Gewalt.
Ian, welcome back. And off to Europe, where French authorities on Thursday are searching for an unidentified man who threw a grenade into a bar in Grenoble on Wednesday, injuring 15 people. The attack occurred in a rough neighborhood of the southeastern city, with the assailant entering the Ashark bar around 8 p.m., throwing the grenade without speaking and fleeing the scene. 6 of the victims are in serious condition, with at least 2 in critical condition, suffering internal injuries in what the health minister, Yannick Nourda, described as an extremely violent attack resembling methods of war. Police are investigating the motive behind the assault, which remains unclear.
Malheureusement, le mode opératoire, on parle d'une grenade, c'est un acte extrêmement violent, c'est quasiment des techniques de guerre, donc c'est plutôt en fait des blessures, des coupures et des perforations d'organes, sans rentrer dans des détails qui sont sur des sphères digestives, thoraciques et cervicales. Là, c'est un acte d'une violence inouïe qui cause naturellement de multiples interrogations, qui suscite une condamnation générale et de zéro tolérance vis-à-vis de ces actes, qui suscite un fort sentiment d'angoisse et de stress dans la population. Et moi, je viens surtout aussi ici remercier l'ensemble de la chaîne de secours qui a fonctionné, avec naturellement...
Aussi, on est stupéfait de la violence du mode opératoire. Donc c'est ça qui est frappant, et c'est aussi dans ces moments-là qu'on se rend compte de l'efficacité de nos services de police qui ont été là tout de suite, nos services de pompiers, nos services hospitaliers qui sont entraînés dans des bâtiments qui ont été d'ailleurs construits très récemment pour pouvoir être plus efficaces et améliorer les conditions de travail de ces soignants qui font un boulot incroyable.
UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy holds talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in London, marking a significant step toward improving relations between the two countries. Lammy emphasized the importance of discussing areas where the UK and China may not always agree, acknowledging that the UK has notable concerns. The meeting aims to foster robust and constructive dialogue with both sides seeking to address differences while strengthening diplomatic ties. This conversation is seen as a crucial move in re-engaging both nations after a period of stalled talks.
I look forward to a broad set of discussions today, including following up on areas of bilateral economic cooperation, as well as important issues for UK national security.
去年年底，习近平主席和斯坦布尔首相实现了成功的会晤，为两国关系和改善发展明确的方向注入动力。我们看到两国各部门的交往在相继恢复，有利于两个人民的合作成果在逐步的显现，提振了人民各界的信心，也向世界传递积极性。事实证明。
Now to the Middle East, where Hamas has confirmed it will release 3 additional Israeli hostages on Saturday, in accordance with the ongoing ceasefire agreement, despite previous threats to delay the release. Tensions had risen after accusations from Hamas that Israel had failed to meet certain obligations, including allowing tents and shelters into Gaza. In response, Israel, supported by the U.S. President Donald Trump, warned of resuming military action if the hostages were not freed. However, with the ceasefire in place since January 19th, Hamas has pledged to honor its commitment to release 33 hostages taken during the October 7th, 2023 attack. Egyptian and Qatari mediators are working to ensure the ceasefire remains intact. Iranian President has criticized U.S. sanctions, stating that they are depriving Iranians of essential goods such as food, water, and medicine. Now, during his visit to the Bashir province, he raised concerns about the sanctions. The president's remarks highlight the ongoing strain on Iran's economic and the significant humanitarian challenges caused by the sanctions. Now, these sanctions have led to significant shortages of critical medications, with reports indicating that over 1,100 patients have died since the U.S. reinstated sanctions in 2018. The Iranian Thalassemia Society highlights the severe impact on patients with chronic conditions like thalassemia, cancer, hemophilia, and multiple sclerosis.
اینا نمیتونن راه ما رو ببندن، ما راه پیدا میکنیم. من تصورم اینه ما با نیروهامون، با انسانهامون، با اتکای بر مردم خودمون و با داشتن یه نقشه مشخص در چارچوب‌ها، اینا که نمیخوام ما گفتیم، اینا میخوام ما بریم در مقابلشون ذلیل بشیم.
And off to Asia, where Beijing has accused an Australian military plane of violating China's sovereignty after reports surfaced that a Chinese fighter jet dropped flares near the Australian aircraft while patrolling the South China Sea. Now, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiankun said the Australian plane had deliberately intruded into airspace near China's Jingsha Islands, and that's the Paracel Islands, which Beijing claims as part of its territory. China criticized the incident as a threat to its national security, escalating tensions in the region as both countries continue to navigate their complex military and diplomatic relationships.
澳大利亚军机未经中方允许，蓄意侵闯中国西沙群岛领空，侵犯中国主权，危害中方国家安全。中方采取驱离措施，正当合法，专业克制。中方已就此向澳方提出严正交涉，要求澳方停止侵权挑衅，停止破坏。
And North Korea has begun demolishing Mount Kumgang Reunion Center, a venue that for decades hosted emotional reunions for families separated by the Korean War. South Korea condemned the move as inhumane, stressing that it disregards the deep emotional ties of separated families who have long sought closure. And since the war, millions of families were torn apart, with some still unsure if their loved ones are alive. South Korea's Unification Ministry called for an immediate halt to the demolition, holding North Korea responsible. The last reunions took place in 2018, and the program has been largely suspended, leaving many families with little hope of ever reuniting.
정부는 남북이 합의하여 설치한 금강산 이산가족 면회소를 북한이 일방적으로 철거하고 있는 데 대해 강한 유감을 표명하며 이러한 철거 행위를 즉각 중단할 것을 엄중히 촉구하는 바입니다. 금강산 이산가족 면회소 철거는 이산가족의 염원을 짓밟는 반인도주의적인 행위이며 우리 국유 재산에 대한 중대한 침해 행위입니다. 북한의 일방적 철거 행위는 그 어떤 명분으로도 정당화될 수 없으며 이번 사태로 인한 모든 책임은 전적으로 북한 당국이 져야 할 것입니다.
And that's all we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422 on Star Times, channel 274. Find us on Apple TV or stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV.